So Rick, a lot of people know you as the man most known for legalization, for the fight for legalization of marijuana.
Yes.
So now tell me in 3 sentences why Rick is so important to be so known and why marijuana is so important to be so known.
Well, our whole future depends on it. It's the only plant that can basically solve all our problems. We could live in a hemp-based economy, and you know, we could have hemp-based industries that are earth-friendly, and on top of that, it also happens to make the greatest medicine on this planet. Non-addictive, harmless, and no one has ever died from it. And it's really the same medicine that Jesus Christ himself used. So I think that's a very strong selling point for the use of this oil, because the recipe for the holy anointing oil, it states right there, canna blossom. Canna blossom is cannabis bud. And they put it in the olive oil extracts the resins. So the holy anointing oil that Jesus was healing people with was full of cannabinoids. So I don't really think it was the power of God that was healing the people. I think it was more the power of cannabis.
That's a really good argument if you would like to convince people perhaps who are religious and are just basically following the teaching of Jesus, if he was really using cannabis oil.
I think Jesus would be in favor of the use of it.
Would be in the favor of use of it.
Most definitely. Anything that's beneficial, how can anyone, you know, rationally stand against its use?
Well, perhaps you're right. I'm an atheist, but I would support your theory, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, but what about the scientists of nowadays? I mean, people put a lot of belief into them, apart from religious people, of course. But why the scientists do not officially state the benefits of marijuana or the oil?
Well, many do. But the trouble is the mainstream media, which is controlled by those huge banking families, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, they control everything. But, I mean, often, like Harvard University back in 2007, they started agreeing with me. Here a couple of years ago, the American Cancer Institute, they started having a whole different outlook on cannabinoids. You know, so it's not that it hasn't been reported, it has been reported, but it's just that the news media are not doing their job because they're all controlled and they're not bringing the truth to the public.
Here is where I want to ask you one question. Since you explained this and considering media, there is one thesis, or should I say, I found one article where some say that there are 10 points that will basically change the world for the better.
Yes.
I wouldn't go into the other 9, but on the 10th place there was marijuana or hemp, and I want to ask you if you agree that legalization of hemp or decriminalization can really be so much important in the development of a new modern era of the world with no suffering and dying in vain because pharmacy industry has monopoly.
Well, I mean, when we actually start, or we begin to use this plant properly, there will be no restrictions on the amount of cannabis that you would grow. If you want to grow any number on your property, that's your business, because it's so useful in so many different ways. We can end unemployment. Everyone would have a job. We can make over 50,000 different things from that plant. Everything around us, our tables, our chairs, our cars, our school buses, airplanes, anything today can be produced from hemp. It's 10 times the strength of steel and 2/3 the weight. Wonderful, you know, and we have to be insane not to be using it. And on top of that, today we have about 20,000 children starving to death every day on this planet for no real reason. Because when you see this happening, you always see it in like these harsh climates and these poor suffering children. Well, what grows well in a harsh climate? Could it be a weed like cannabis? Maybe a weed that you could reclaim deserts with? That's what cannabis can do. So it's just that these governments are holding the truth back and holding the use of this plant back. They're letting these children starve for no real reason. You know, it's just the big money years ago took this over from so many different angles with all their propaganda and lies. You know, oh, it's a gateway drug. Yeah, I agree. But it's not a gateway leading to the use of hard drugs. It's a gateway that we can bring people back. You know, it's a gateway to break those addictions. You know, because our society today, there's so many people taking pharmaceuticals, it's scary. And, you know, so many of these substances, they're just doing the public harm.
So, basically, would you agree with me if I say that, for example, pharmaceuticals or doctors are doing just the opposite of what they should be doing?
I would.
And people like you are doing basically their job.
Yes.
And that basically the whole world is like upside down. And what you were explaining before about the importance of hemp, I think we have an evidence in Colorado. I think they increased their BDP for 20%. I don't know if it's Colorado or I don't know which country in the United States, but basically we have evidence of what you are saying.
Oh yes, there's so much evidence out there now. It's just everywhere on the internet from so many testimonials. You know, that this plant does that. You know, there's no question that the oil does exactly what I've told people. You know that it can do, but it has to be properly made. And there are a lot of people out there saying they're supplying the Rickom Simpson oil, when in reality they're supplying much lower quality oil so they can fill their pockets, you know, with money. And I mean, there's so many of them, you can't put a stop to them all. But I have no affiliation with anyone who supplies oil. I know different people who do, and some of these people, you know, you can trust, because I've seen their oils. But I mean, I can't go all over the world and test everybody's oil. I wish I could. But I mean, I can't even enter the U.S. because of my dark criminal past in Canada for healing people. You know, I think that's what I found to be so absurd. I mean, I can understand having laws and putting people in jail for harming other people or doing something wrong. But when you're healing people and you're curing diseases like cancer, and they give you a criminal record for it, it really leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You know?
Okay, but can I interrupt here for a moment?
Sure.
Yes, I agree, the laws.
Yes.
They've been put up by our government, our representatives and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I would like to turn the focus also on the people, the ordinary people. Okay, the politicians, they are not working for the people because they have certain interests which are led by the big corporations for the profit.
Yeah.
That's clear. Okay, but the ordinary people who really know that this is really helping them,
Right.
and despite of knowing that perhaps they're going to break a law because they are going to save their child who is suffering of cancer,
Right.
but they still don't take the initiative to step up for what is good for everybody. So the blame is not only on the government or on the politicians, but also on the ordinary people.
Yes,
So
it's all of us.
what's happening in this basis of real democracy?
Well, what's happening, I mean, it's you know, well, people are becoming aware. You know, I mean, they said, you know, well, you know, we're lining up with the galactic center of the universe and the Milky Way, and it's causing a change in frequency and everybody's waking up. But I don't think that's the real cause. I mean, back in the 60s, when the revolution, basically the hippie revolution started in the U.S., you know, they all started smoking pot. Next thing, they're protesting the Vietnam War. And because it bred awareness. And so the government stood against it, of course. But and now today, where cannabis is used so much more widely today than it was in the 60s, and now with people taking this medicine and getting all these wonderful results, I mean, the information is spreading like wildfire now. They can't contain this, they can't stop it. People need to be able to produce their own medicine. because they can't afford to buy it from pharmaceutical companies because they're going to want a fortune for it. You know, in the end, people will have no alternative but to grow their own and produce their own medicine, and no government should ever stop them from doing so.
Okay, so basically the people just really have to take the step and just to force what's theirs.
Demand, you know.
Despite if the government it's not in favor for it.
Well, I mean, it's not about the government being in favor. It's the will of the people.
Exactly, because I see they don't step up. They're frightened, they're passive, they're lazy, they're brainwashed, whatever. I mean, I don't feel the motivation, the power from the people against the system, which also includes abandonment of hemp oil, which is curing.
Well, you know, most people kind of live in fear. They don't want to break the law, or what we perceive to be laws. But when you realize that these laws are not real, because, you know, all these laws, are statutes and acts that were put in place against the use of this plant are all based in corruption. You know, we do not live under corrupted laws. I mean, that's ridiculous. And we all know they're corrupted, but nobody says a word, and the police keep arresting us. You know, cannabis should never have been outlawed. If it had been left alone, we would be living in a different world today, a much better world, and we wouldn't be at the mercy of these people, like I said, like these huge banking families that have so much control. And, you know, and people actually think, well, we have a government that represents us, and they don't. They represent the big money interests. They don't work for the people, and that's so obvious. So I think we have every right to get up and demand as the public, you know, well, even me as a spokesman, you know, on behalf of the people of Slovenia and any other country. You know, I demand, show us why we cannot use this medicine. We have every right to. You know, and nobody, you know, it's a God-given plant. No harm, no danger. You know, and if you, it's on top of that, like I said, I know from personal experience, and now everybody out there that's used this, and that's millions of people now, they know the truth. How are they going to stop it? They can't. And we will have a better world. It will be a lot different than it is now. And I honestly think that in a short time we'll look back on this part of history as likely the darkest chapter in man's history. You know, we've done a lot of stupid things. Too many people have suffered and died. It's, you know, for no reason. And we have a way that we can put an end to it all. So let's make it a better world.
I would agree with everything you said, but I would maybe what Valentina was trying to say that, for example, here in Slovenia we have a case now that we are collecting signatures.
Yes.
That the parliamentaries could discuss it, and we need like 5,000 signatures, and what we are experiencing now is not a very good response. And maybe I was wondering, because I think that people don't really realize the magnitude of importance of this, because if I could go like 10 years from now, and let's say we collect these signatures and we legalize it, you know, how many people we can save in those 10 years?
Oh, enormous number.
Enormous number.
Yes.
And now if we could like look the future that we don't succeed, and maybe we succeed in 2 years from now, how many people will die?
In the meantime.
Yeah. So I think the people don't realize the importance, and I say that every signature that comes in basically saves every life from the moment it's legalized and it's available, from the moment on to the infinity.
Yes.
I'm really trying to tell that to the people, and people don't, I think, realize that. So maybe if you could maybe express in your words how important it is, maybe that not only in Slovenia in that moment, but also in other countries. Croatia, for example, now is waking up, all other countries, and what does it need to be done to wake up the people or to motivate?
Well, I mean, we have to realize that, you know, the planet right now, as we speak, the planet is becoming more and more toxic every day. You know, we have Fukushima, we have Gulf oil spills, we have, you know, Chernobyl, all these disasters, and we're polluting this planet at such a terrifying rate, you know, and we're living with these toxins. And then we're allowing companies like Monsanto to grow all of these genetically modified foods, which again are very harmful. That's another thing that should be outlawed. You know, when we allow things like Codex Alimentaris, the outlawing of the natural. Well, what a wonderful idea. You know, let's outlaw things like oranges that are high in vitamin C. You know, what kind of crazy world do we live in? You know, and what happens, what's the effects of that? Well, the people become more sickly, then they need more medicine, and of course we need more doctors. It's just a big racket. You know, and that's not the way we should be living. And what I see that's wrong today, for the most part, if doctors would simply follow their own oath. The Hippocratic Oath is the basis of medicine. That is the meaning of medicine. You know, first do no harm. I shall not administer poisons. If doctors did that, they would be giving us things, substances like the oil from the hemp plant, or other natural substances that do no harm. But the minute they become doctors, the first thing they do, they break their own oath, and I have to say, I consider that to be drug dealing.
Well, I see it maybe even in a worse way. Basically, they are hiding the truth. They are supposed to enable a patient or an ill man that if they get an information that maybe this could cure, they are obligated by their oath to investigate and then to proceed the information so that a person should have like either chemotherapy or oil, you know.
Well, you should have your choice.
Sanjin,
yeah, you should have the choice.
Okay, Sanjin, but this is, you know, I mean, I don't know why we are even debating about why the doctors are not prescribing.
Well, because it's
they are
important.
corrupt, they are bought, you know, they depend on big pharmacy corporations. I mean, you know, it's very obvious. I mean,
But
the
they need to hear this now.
Yeah, they should. Of course they should. I mean, but you know, the corruption in pharmaceutical industry is even bigger than in the other parts of economy. Because pharmacy is for profit, you know. Exactly. So you know, I mean, they receive payments for the prescription, for the number of the prescription of a certain label of, I don't know which medicine, of a certain company. I mean, it's you know, what they do, it's, you cannot imagine the extensions what they're doing for money. I think that basically they are the worst persons in the world, because they should save lives with their hands and they're not doing it for the profit. The politicians, they wash the hands of the blood. They're also killing people, but the medicines, they basically have the blood on their hands for the sake of the profit, you know. So you will never convince a corrupted doctor, but you can always convince an ordinary person, telling him what basically is happening. So what I think the answer for basically all the problems with which the people are not dealing is to go and talk to them, explain them, because every person understands a rational, normal, sane argument. Well, if you tell them, but nobody until now told the people the simple question or the simple answer, because everything is about that, if it's not for the profit.
Yeah, but here is also the media, so basically they are all involved as...
Well, this is what I love about this subject. You know, like when I do a lot of lectures and interviews and things on the internet, I always tell people, I say, look, you don't have to believe a word I'm telling you. Simply go out, get 1 ounce of good hemp bud, 28 grams, and if you have good bud, you know, and it's like the heavy indica varieties, you'll get usually around 3 to 4 grams of high-grade oil out of 1 ounce. Take that oil out, find somebody with skin cancer, a diabetic ulcer that the medical system cannot heal, or psoriasis, anything like that, put the oil on, put a bandage on, watch what happens. Change it every 3-4 days, it'll heal like unbelievably. And anybody can prove to themselves, yes, we have a cure for cancer. Of course we do. And the question I ask myself when I get into this is, well, if it cures cancer on the exterior, you know, it would probably cure cancer on the interior. I was already eating the oil, so, you know, it didn't surprise me, really, when I started treating the first internal cancers, that it worked so well. I really expected it to, because I was just seeing so many miracles, like, you know, chronic pain, arthritis, you know, even rheumatoid arthritis. We had a woman in England, she was all the swelling in the hands and everything, you know, the calcium buildup. She had rheumatoid arthritis for, I think they said it was 12 years, and in 9 weeks she cured it. So her hands would work again and everything, and, you know, so why suffer? We have an answer.
Well, perhaps the people haven't yet suffered enough to really reach out for changes in the way of, in the terms of medicine, or even better in the terms of politics and democracy, real democracy.
Well, they're leaving the most important aspect of this medicine out. They're not looking at that, and this is what they should be looking at. It's the preventative aspect. If we were all taking that oil, we could prevent cancer from occurring, diabetes, multiple sclerosis, so many diseases. We could eliminate these diseases simply by taking the oil before they occur. But people say, well, I'm feeling good right now, I don't need the oil. Yes, you do. You live in a toxic environment. The oil keeps you detoxified, and it keeps you in a state of good health. So it's the ultimate answer.
But it's in the human nature that until they experience pain in their own skin, they don't move.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, maybe in this place, if we could conclude, I would conclude with the thought that I think everything happens for a reason, and I think that you happen for a reason.
I think we all happen for a reason.
Yeah, so I would
like I said, brother, we're all in this together.
Yeah, we're all in this together, so I would just thank you for being.
Well, we're part of the change. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And for keeping up the fight.
Thank you.
All of us, even you, eh?
No, you're all doing wonderful work. Thank you. Thank you.